Well, it is acknowledged as one of the greatest rivalries in college football. The history of the Monon Bell game between Wabash and DePauw, now available in video form. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill?
Thanks, Gary. Ken Owen, a DePauw graduate, former Indianapolis TV newsman, and now Executive Director of Media Relations at DePauw, has compiled video vignettes of each of the 114 Wabash DePauw games. It's called Monon Memories. It's available in limited release. Ken's here today to talk about the project as well as look ahead to next week's 115th Wabash DePauw game at Crawfordsville. Ken, welcome to the program.
Bill, thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. It is a great rivalry, and anybody who's ever been to a Bell game knows that. Talk about how this project took hold.
We've had telecasts over the years that we've put on different stations, and during timeouts we used to have alumni interviews on the sidelines. They wound up being so partisan because the Wabash guy would say something bad about DePauw and vice versa. And as the game went on, the effects of tailgating became apparent sometimes. So I decided in 2002 that I would start looking at some of the old films and create vignettes that could be run during timeouts and kind of capture the flavor of the series over the years. There are some great backstories and celebrate really what we share as two schools as opposed to the kind of Hatfield-McCoy stuff that was going on before.
I mean, digging back into the archives, you said you had video going back to, what, about 1940 or so?
1940 was the first Bell game that we have video for, but I found some DePauw-Evansville footage from 1938, which is actually beautiful.
But then you go, obviously this rivalry goes all the way back to the late 1800s, and so that you had to do some serious digging.
Photos, my man. Yes, I started digging through the archives, and I went backwards. I started with 2001 and then back. When I ran out of film, I started getting into photos, and I thought at some point I'd hit the wall and have to stop doing them. Well, I made it all the way to 1890, finished about a month ago, and they're all together now sitting on our website for all to see.
Time precludes us from giving all the great stories. A couple of your favorite stories. You told me about some Indianapolis guys ended up helping coach one year.
In 1919, the coach of DePauw had some health problems and had to stop coaching. And Charles Jewett, who was the mayor of Indianapolis, Fred Tucker, and two other businessmen drove to Greencastle every day to coach the football team. It was not a good season for football, but it's a nice story. To think of the mayor actually going to Greencastle and saying, try this play, it's pretty unimaginable.
And in the pre-war years, or right before the World War II, there was actually a professional football player who ended up on the DePauw roster.
Bob Stuber was an All-American at Missouri. He wound up being drafted by the Chicago Bears, played in a game against the Packers. The next day the Navy called and said, report to DePauw on their V-12 program. He showed up. Galmy Neal, our coach, went to the barracks and said, anybody play football here? Stuber dressed and wound up leading the nation in scoring after having played for Missouri and the Bears. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and he averaged something like 36 points a game, like NBA numbers for a football player.
Yeah, and I know the Wabash people are still smarting over that one. Okay, Ken, we got about a minute left. This next week's game at Crawfordsville, Little Giant Stadium, is going to be on HDNet.
Yes.
And so talk about, I mean, that's great exposure for this rivalry and the two schools.
It is. If you've got high definition cable in your home, you'll get it. It's on most basic packages. If you don't, it'll be in many sports bars. We're having 60 alumni parties around the country. It's really a great chance for people that wear the black and gold and the red and white to get together and kind of poke each other and have some fun every year. And of course, we both want to win badly because there's another 51 weeks of the year we're going to have to live with the outcome. So go DePauw.
1 p.m. on HDNet next week, and of course that's Mark Cuban's network. And we know that there will be another memory to add, and real quickly, you will be able to add to this video as the series continues.
Yes, and if people go to our website, www.depauw.edu, they can actually order a DVD, a 2-DVD set of this year's game. It'll have the full game from this year and every one of the Monon Memories, including the 2008 one I'll be editing in about a week's time.
Ken Owen, thanks much.
Bill,
We'll have a great
you.
game next week.
Yes.
Gary will be right back after this.